The last memorial you'll encounter on Soldiers Walk is probably one of the most iconic memorials in the park. It is a tribute to the War on Terror, where America was attacked by terrorists on September 11th, 2001. This memorial is a tribute to those that perished that day. There are several monuments in this memorial, most notably the Twisted Steel Beam, which was once part of the Twin Towers, acquired from New York City. To the right of the beam, you'll find a memorial made from black marble, with inscriptions that are sandblasted incised letters with gold lithochrome applied to the letters on a granite foundation. This memorial is a tribute to the Twin Towers and all of those that perished and served to help the survivors, including the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department. It is loaded with historic facts about the building, how it was built, and statistics on the building that perished in this horrible tragedy. In the center of the memorial are two granite blocks depicting the Twin Towers, with an engraved marble monument in front of them with the inscription, 9/11/2001, the day that changed America forever. To the left of the two towers, you'll find a monument to the attack on the World Trade Center. The information depicts historical facts and accounts of what happened that day in New York City. To the right of the two towers, there is another memorial made from marble, with inscriptions depicting the attack on the Pentagon. Here you'll find historical facts about the Pentagon and information on the people that perished in this horrible tragedy. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 Islamic men affiliated with al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airliners, all bound for California. Once the hijackers assumed control of the airliners, they told the passengers that they had a bomb on board and would spare the lives of passengers and crew once their demands were met. No passenger and crew actually suspected that they would use the airliners as suicide weapons, since it had never happened before in history. The hijackers, member of al-Qaeda's Hamburg cell, intentionally crashed 2 airliners into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, killing 147 civilians and the 10 hijackers on board the airliners. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the north face of the North Tower, One World Trade Center, followed by United Airlines Flight 175, which collided with the South Tower, 2 WTC, just 16 minutes later. The world watched in shock as the scene developed. As emergency services and members of the public rushed to help, the unimaginable happened. Both towers collapsed with cataclysmic results. Of the 2,759 who were killed in New York on 9/11, including the 10 hijackers, many of the bodies would never be found. Those who escaped the buildings and the many who rushed to help simply stood watching the horror unfold as they were suddenly caught by a tidal wave of terror. A choking cloud of dust now raged across the city. Within 102 minutes, the famous New York skyline resembled a war zone, and its residents left shell-shocked. Here are some facts associated with the Twin Towers. The North Tower was hit at 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The tower collapsed 104 minutes later at 10:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The South Tower was hit by United Flight 175, 18 minutes later at 9:03 a.m. with 67 people on board. People that died this day came from 39 different states, the Virgin Islands, and 35 different countries. The youngest passenger was 2 years old on her first trip to Disneyland. The oldest was 82 years old. The New York Fire Department lost 343 firefighters, almost half of the number of on-duty deaths in the department's 100-year history. The New York Police Department lost 50 officers. 1.5 million hours over 261 days were spent removing the debris at an expense of $1.3 billion. Just 34 minutes after the second attack on the Twin Towers, American Airlines Flight 77 hit the west wall of the Pentagon, killing 70 civilians, 55 military personnel who were in the building, as well as 59 civilians and the 5 hijackers on board. At 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. It is believed the White House may have been the intended target, but terrorists were overcome by brave passengers once they received mobile calls informing them of a similar hijackings in New York and Washington. All 44 people on board, 39 civilians, a law enforcement officer, and the 4 hijackers died. No flights had any survivors. A total of 2,977 victims and 19 hijackers perished in the attacks, making it the worst terrorist attack to ever take place on U.S. soil, and also the deadliest foreign attack on U.S. soil since the Japanese carried out a surprise air raid on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Because of the attack, the Authorization for Use of Military Force Against Terrorists, or AUMF, was made law on September 14, 2001, to authorize the use of the United States Armed Forces against those responsible for the attacks on September 11, 2001. It authorized the President to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harbored such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future attacks of international terrorism against the United States by such nations, organizations, or persons. Congress declared this is intended to constitute specific statutory authorization within the meaning of Section 5B of the War Powers Resolution Act of 1973.